Celeste is one of the most difficult but fun indie games ever made. But I wanted to make it even harder. After some thought, I figured I'd try to beat the game without dashing diagonally a single time. So that's exactly what I'll be showing you today. Before we start, here's some stuff you should know. First, I'm only gonna go over the A sites in the game's main 9 chapters. Secondly, in case it wasn't obvious enough, a diagonal dash is one in any of the 4 diagonal directions, so we can still do vertical and horizontal dashes. Also, bubbles aren't dashing. With that said, make sure to stay until the end, because they get really stupidly hard. Forsaken City is exactly what you'd expect. It being the first chapter, kinda like a tutorial one. Oh wait, the tutorial, hold up. What? Oh yeah, you can just skip the cutscene here. The tutorial is possible. Anyways, the first chapter is really easy. I did some few skips using supers here and there, but either way, if there was any issue at all, this entire chapter can be beaten dashless, so like, this isn't really difficult. You would think that old site would be the same, but it's harder than you might think. Traveling to the mirror isn't difficult at all, it just requires like 3 more brain cells. Once you get there though, you're introduced to this level's main gimmick, dream blocks. You dash through them to go on a straight line across them and regain your dash. This is annoying because, well, you go in a straight line, meaning that if at any point we encounter a place where we can only go diagonally, it's over. Once you exit this area, you encounter a place where you'd usually use a diagonal dash, but there's enough space to do a horizontal one and get through. However, the run is already over. Unfortunately, there's literally nothing we can do. This room requires 2 diagonal dashes. Doesn't matter what you try. But wait, before you exit the video, because we have way more cool stuff later on, let's try to beat it with the minimum amount of diagonal dashes. How about that? After this, there aren't any major difficulty spikes. There are some rooms that require you to think a bit more than usual, but nothing worth talking about. Let's finally get that gimmick out of our way and get to another mildly annoying one, that being cycles. This room with 3 dust bunnies is harder, but no issue when you time it right. Then, when Oshio becomes a crybaby, there's not much to know honestly. There's this dash to enter one of these sections, but that's it for them honestly. You can expect easy movement in all of them. Here, we could have just demo dashed through the bunnies, but let's try to get the key anyways. I died a few times since the timings are kinda precise, but it's still possible. The next room is why this chapter took so long. To even get to the hard part in the room, you have to do every single other part first, because obviously it had to be at the end of the room. If you try to do 2 horizontal dashes, you're not getting anywhere, even if they are crouch dashes. Also called demo dashes, by the way. If you try to do an up dash, you won't get enough distance, so that's also a no-go. It definitely seems like a dead end, and when I searched for a solution on the internet, I found just a single video that did the same challenge.
Even with perfect execution, this room would still require at least 1 or 2 diagonal dashes.
Shoutouts to him. That's when I got the idea to dash horizontally once and then dash upwards and grab onto the wall. That way, I can let go from higher and still get a horizontal dash to the next one. Then I would do the same thing here, though this one was harder. To end off, do that again to exit the room. Except it still isn't enough. So I paused the game, held the jump button and continued. This way when I dropped I would fall even slower. I would also do a demo dash. All of this combined made it possible to beat it. Absolutely staggering. For the rest of the level, Oshio chases you, but it's all doable. Golden Ridge introduces bubbles, which aren't dashes as we already mentioned, and wind. Wind is really annoying, but I can't lie, it is sometimes helpful here and there. Then, we're also introduced to these platforms which move when you grab onto them or land on them. For the most part, they're nothing for this challenge and a lot of times we can just skip them. In this room, we have to do a super dash to be able to get up here. Pretty straightforward. We don't get any more troublesome instances until this part. I couldn't seem to get this bubble to this other one, so instead I grabbed onto this ledge and waited for the wind so that I could completely skip the other one. To save you the time, there's nothing left in this level worth mentioning, it's all possible. Mirror Temple, the spooky one. One of the main gimmicks are the red bubbles, which aren't bad to deal with in the A side. There are also these platforms that move when you dash, but those also aren't awful. Dash under this one, then take the shortcut to skip having to collect the key, and do some platforming until you get to the second part of the level. After dealing with some seekers, you get to the dark part of the level. I tried doing this cave so that I wouldn't have to get the 2 keys. I swear guys, this is scary for real. Sadly, I don't think it's possible, which means I have to get the keys. Fortunately, there aren't any difficult parts when it comes to getting them. I guess I should point out this kinda tight updash. Other than that, we can move on to the next and final section, Crystal Theo. I know this gimmick is pretty annoying, but it's good enough. While doing this challenge, I also realized you can do this, which will come in handy in the next video's B-side. Theo part is possible, we can move on to Reflection. At the start of the chapter, we're introduced to the feather. This gimmick is goated for this challenge, hell yeah. Soon enough, we also meet Kevin, who is a cool guy I suppose. Oh yeah, let's talk about the challenge. The first few rooms use these 2 gimmicks, so they aren't problematic. In this intersection, we skip everything with an updash. Soon enough, we're introduced to them bouncy guys. I'm still mixed about them, they're kinda neutral if I had to give a final opinion. There are a few rooms that would be easier with diagonal dashes, but nothing impossible. We take the 2 super secret shortcuts in this large section, and hey, look at that, we're already at the boss. The rooms within the Goth Girl chase are mostly fine. There are some worth mentioning though. This room has a precise updash. In this one, we can't dash diagonally to the left, so instead we make a tight curve with the feather. Then she goes wild and starts moving blocks everywhere, like in this room where instead of going up, I go through the bottom path. And finally, we get to this room. Oh my god, this room! Okay, it might look normal. However, you can't just dash and go forwards, and you also can't dash and go upwards. A few months ago, when streaming a wheel spinning Celeste challenge, I encountered the same issue, and not gonna lie, I did a demo dash through the spikes, which is pixel perfect. But this was impossible to recreate. I do not know how I got so lucky. So instead, I looked for another way to do it, as always. By doing a wall bounce here, I got pretty close to crossing the gap, and after some tries, I actually got it. It was really precise, but I could get out of this. Oh wait, never mind, I died. Well, after some more deaths, I got it again, and I made sure not to. I died again. Well, surely the 3rd time, okay, I did get it afterwards, but didn't really have to take me so long. That's the end of the chapter, thankfully. We can at last go to Summit. Let's speedrun this thing. 0 meters, nothing interesting. 500 meters, nothing interesting. 1000 meters, oh no, the dream blocks are back. And there's this room, where we need 2 diagonal dashes. Or not. We can skip the first one by going above, but the second one, it really seemed like nothing was gonna work. Well, if you go down slightly above the spikes, you can just dash forward and you won't run into a wall. So that's that room figured out. Nothing else here. Dream blocks won't defeat us this time around. 1500 meters, cycles are back. Last room was harder than usual, but all doable. 2000 meters, where we skip the beginning by going up here. There's also this room, which I don't have a clue how I survived it. 2500 meters, Temple 1. This one with the buttons is actually worth mentioning. The first one is just fine. The second one is the troublemaker though. I couldn't make it with just the horizontal and vertical dash, so my plan was to have at least 1 dash when entering the crystal, so I would kinda have 3 dashes after all. And what do you know, my plan actually worked. The last room is long, but it doesn't have any hurdles. 3000 meters, the home stretch. Okay, a lot of flags are much harder here, but not in the sense of a especially hard room that took me a while. Instead, they are just a bit more precise, but if you just have good movement, they're honestly not too bad. Flag 17 looked pretty hard. I always hit the spikes when jumping, but if you just lower yourself a bit and do an updash, it'll get you there. In Flag 11, time your dash pretty low so you don't hit the ones above. In Flag 5, you want a neutral jump and an updash to make it past these spikes here. Flag 2 is surprisingly kinda tight, but then Flag 1 is a piece of cake. With that, we beat the main game, but I said all A sides, so we have to do Core and Farewell too. Core has a gimmick where you don't get your dash back after landing on the ground, so maybe it'll be hard. The start is pretty nothing. I don't know if the middle parts are tricky or not, cause I just skipped it all because why not? This row where you have to change your dashes can get pretty annoying, but it's all about having the right timing. Then the lava starts rising. While this goes on, I'm gonna tell you about my second channel. I made this to upload full runs, so if I skipped over something you wanted to see, go check that out. Here, I couldn't seem to focus and my muscle memory just did diagonal dashes all the time. You can get it with 2 well-timed horizontal dashes though. That's it for this chapter, the rest is pretty straightforward. So why is this video so long?
What the heck?
Well, I'll show you. Let's move on to the absolute hellhole that is Farewell. So what exactly makes Farewell so hard? Well, you see, half the level is based around wave dashing, a movement option that's done well using a diagonal dash. We'll get there eventually, but let's start with the easier half, although don't get me wrong, some rooms here are still tricky. I normally do this room with a diagonal dash here, but it's also possible with a horizontal one. Okay, wait, I'm just gonna go through the problematic ones, because otherwise this video would be like twice as long. In the first checkpoint, there are no major roadblocks, nice. Then we find the jellyfish, which normally is used by throwing and dashing diagonally to the right, but if you let go and dash up, it can also get the job done. And then, one of the most major roadblocks in the entirety of Farewell and the game, electrical room. Let's go room by room here, shall we? We can obviously deactivate the electricity and get into this first one. By doing up dashes, it's possible. The second one requires you to get a lot of distance, but by doing a super and the trick I mentioned earlier, it's also possible. The third and fourth ones remain practically unchanged. So is the fifth one really screwing us that much? Yes it is. You get put in a red bubble and need to exit it with a diagonal dash to grab onto the jellyfish. Horizontal won't work, obviously, and neither will vertical. And out of a bubble, there really is nothing we can do, I'm telling you. So we have to find another way to get past this entirety of this section. Luckily, the devs knew that some people would try to skip this whole section, so they added a little secret. You can grab a jellyfish and a double dash thing to the fifth room, and throw the jellyfish precisely, get into the bubble, and updash while grabbing the jellyfish to gain more height twice. I tried for so long, but I just couldn't replicate it. But here's a clip to show you that it's possible. However, that's not the end yet. To get to the secret area, you would usually just dash diagonally. With a horizontal dash, you don't get enough height, and a vertical dash will kill you. There seems to be no way, but my brain doesn't see that, because it keeps trying other stuff. I figured out something I could do. I would go down and up dash, but the screen moved back up, I would wall bounce from the dash before. That way I would get enough height, then I could just do a horizontal dash to fit through. To be honest, I do not know how I thought of it, but I'm glad. But wait, that's not the end yet. There's an extra room here. This one requires clean movement, but it's doable nonetheless. Okay, that was the final room for this section. Let's finally move on. Here, instead of dashing diagonally, I wall jumped off of the other side of this block to be able to get it. The next room is the spring one, where it seemed like the movement was way too precise or even impossible, to the point that I reset and went back with the jellyfish to make it easy. Take a look at what I did. Yep, I missed the jellyfish on the last one. I actually got it without the jellyfish too, which is kinda crazy. It's pretty damn precise though. You're probably familiar with the next problematic room, the other spring one. The problem came at the end, where I had to get over the spikes with a singular updash, and it was tight. Then finally, the last room of this checkpoint, and the one before the wave dashing thing. I just wanted to mention this one because I didn't do it the intended way. Wave dashes usually give you a lot of distance and little height, but to countermeasure it, we can just use supers, which give us less distance but more height. Not to say this is a complete replacement. In fact, this makes it very difficult still, and some rooms will still be close to impossible. For example, in this one, you usually do 3 wave dashes in a row, so with supers, it gets much more difficult. Or this one with the moving blocks. Look at how far I am. It has to be pretty much perfect. The bubble room is too tight for comfort too. The first one can be done, though it's pretty hard, but with the second one, I'm pretty sure it's impossible to get to the next bubble. So instead, you need to be really precise and grab onto the ledge of the disappearing platform and quickly super on it. In the dream block section, dash upwards at the end instead of diagonally. In the next one, it's more about strategy, as I found you can just grab on and go under the spikes here. Otherwise, it would have been way harder. The moving block one was also so annoying. That height increase I mentioned about supers comes in to ruin us here, as you now hit the spikes. So you also have to control how high you jump to get under these spikes and dash upwards just in time to grab onto the platform, to then make a really obnoxious jump over the spikes without having to wall bounce. After some tight dashes to get the feather here, we get to the next checkpoint. I shouldn't be relieved though, because this checkpoint it's about more rooms with wave dashes. In the second room, we have to make a tight dash to make it out, and the very next one requires some strategy too. I'm yapping too much though, so just look at it I guess. I don't know how to explain this one.
Bruh.
The red bubble room requires a very specific set of bubbles, and also a really quick super at the end. In this room, you can get enough height and distance to make it possible, fortunately. Just dash upwards to get another one of those double dash thingies. Then this one is also a really hard point for us. After being pushed back by the spring, you can't get near enough distance without a dash to get to the feather. This crystal here can only be used once, so we have to figure out a way to save it. If you dash up after hitting the spring, you might be able to get to the wall without dying or without grabbing the crystal. And so I tried, for a pretty long time. Eventually, by pause buffering and doing a demo dash upwards, I got it. And I died afterwards, so I had to redo it. But it is possible. This windy section is kinda puzzly. I ended up going for some super dashes to get in the bubble, then dash horizontally and neutral jump just at the right moment so that I would get the blue key and enter the bubble, while using the spring to get to the spring wind section. Speaking of which, you can do an up dash at the end of the section to make it. No more problematic rooms in this section, only 3 more to go. This one actually doesn't have any problematic rooms. Apart from replacing a few wave dashes with supers and having the right route and cycles for the red bubble one, you're all good. The start of the next one, however, does make it more precise, and it's just 2 jumps. The first one is tight as you need to control the height of your jump once again. But reaching the bird seemed impossible. He was too far away. Luckily, it is possible, it just needed to be as perfect as possible. Let's see, are there any problematic rooms here? Not this one. This one's too easy. Well, this one is also easy. And this other one too. Oh hey, this one usually requires a ton of wave dashes. It's much more difficult, yes, but at this point, I've gotten used to supers, so it wasn't actually that bad. This one specifically was pretty tight as it was really far away. Apart from that, there's only one more troublesome room in this checkpoint, and it's the very last one here as well. And I'll just show you the issue. As you can see, we need the distance from wave dashing. However, that's impossible, right? Well, with supers, it is. However, remember the demo dashing we have been doing? You can demo to the right and jump, and it will do a hyper dash without any diagonal dashes at all. I wish I found that out sooner though, huh? With that, we reach the last room of farewell. Farewell. Yes, I really spent all that time. Yes, it's hard. The start isn't that hard. Just make sure to have perfect control of the jellyfish. The problem comes at the end. At the end of a 2-minute section that I need to do every single time I fail. That's why this took me so long. This part at the end really seemed impossible. You just couldn't grab onto the jellyfish, and even if you could not reach the fuse box. I was ready to call this a failure and dash diagonally a bunch of times, but before that, I asked in the Celeste Discord, and someone sent me a video. Turns out, everything here seems to be moving up and down, and that really is a factor here. Just pure random luck. Apart from that, grabbing onto the jellyfish with these up dashes was such a nightmare. This screen is just rage bait, I swear. As you've seen, I spent really long here, failure after failure, but I still tried to get it. I had to. It's funny how Farewell takes 0 diagonal dashes while Old Sight takes 2. Also, that's the minimum diagonal dashes to beat every A side in Celeste, 2, both in Old Sight. Also, I'll definitely do the B sides and the C sides. I have already started recording them. Anyways, finally a good challenge, huh? A lot of my challenges I end up saying they were easy and underwhelming. Well, this one surely wasn't. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.